Welcome. Today we're going to walk you through the setup process for KeyReporter's computer lab availability maps. But before we get into setup and configuration, let's talk for a minute about some prerequisites you may need to take care of before implementing them on your local key server. The first thing you'll need to make sure of is that you're at least up to the 7.2 version of key server and key configure. Ideally, you'll want to be fully up to date because the newest version includes some useful enhancements and fixes a few minor bugs you could run into if you're running an older version. Heat maps, for example, weren't added until 7.4. Secondly, you'll need to make sure KeyReporter, our built-in web server process, is up and running on your key server. This is very easy to do. Simply go to the config menu, click on KeyReporter settings, and then look at the KeyReporter status area to make sure it's running. If not, just click the Start button to get it going. Next, you'll want to make sure you've set up computer divisions in Key Configure and that they're accurate and up to date. Availability maps are based on the divisions created here, so this is a critical step. Divisions can be set up through AD integration, filters with actions or rules, or created manually in Key Configure. You want to make sure your divisions include all active machines and that any old hardware has been set to retired status or moved to the uncategorized division so that they don't show up on your maps. For the purposes of this training video, we will assume that these prerequisites have been met. Again, if you need additional information about these topics, search our support documentation or send us an email at support@sassafras.com. Now let's get going. First, let's take a quick look at a couple of sample maps so you can see where we're headed and get an idea of what the finished product will look like. On your screen is an example of what the availability widget looks like in KeyReporter. This is the guest dashboard, which can be made available to end users who do not have key server credentials, so visibility and the options are limited. Users who are given access to this page, either directly or by embedding it onto a university-managed web page, only see a list of divisions that have maps created for them already. Once we log in, we will be able to see this same dashboard with a complete list of all the divisions in the key server. But first, let's take a quick look at one of these labs to see what a guest user will be able to access. From this view, we can obtain a lot of information about what's going on in the lab. We can see a detailed layout of the room, the lab hours, a demand forecast to give students and administrators an idea of when the lab is open or closed, when it is busy, and when it's relatively free, and the availability of computers and their operating systems, indicated by the colored computer icons. By clicking on individual computers, we can also see what software is installed. And we can get a full list of all managed software installed in the lab by clicking the magnifying glass. If we select a single product, KeyReporter tells us exactly which computers in the lab had that product installed. If the software title is only installed on computers that are in use, or if the lab is full, we can quickly find all the other labs where the software is installed by clicking the link here. That's the guest view. You can easily provide direct access to this page to guests by simply providing a link to the key server IP address or domain name, or by embedding the page or availability widget into a campus website. You can also make maps available on electronic signage or informational kiosks as needed. Now let's log in and get the administrator's view. The first thing we'll notice when we log in is that the availability widget we saw on the default guest page isn't here on the admin dashboard. Let's add that now. First, let's click the plus button and then select Computer as type. Then click the Add button to place the widget on the page. The most obvious change when logged in as an administrator is that we're not limited to labs that already have maps set up, but instead we're given a view of computer availability across all divisions in the key server. Let's go back into Adams Lab 1 to look for differences between guest and admin views. We still see the lab name and hours, the map with computer availability, and the demand forecast just as before. The only real difference is the addition of two new buttons, one for edit mode and one for the heat map selector. We will work with the editor in the next section when we build a map from scratch, So for now, let's have a look at the heat map. After selecting a duration to report on, the heat map functionality will highlight computers from light yellow to dark red, depending on how much they're used. When compared against software usage data, operating system type, hardware specs, and even where a machine is installed in the room, you can begin to get a much clearer view of how and why particular machines are used more than others. And this can help you make better decisions about software and hardware needs, and even lab layout. At this point, you might begin to ask yourself, is it really cost effective to have site licenses for expensive software like Adobe Creative Cloud if you can see peak usage over any time period on every computer on campus? With detailed, fine grained computer and software usage information that you can visualize on a month to month or hour to hour basis, how much might you be able to reduce your software and hardware footprint? Now that we've seen what availability maps can do, let's have a look at how to set them up. Let's go back and select a division that doesn't already have a map set up so we can create one. Not all of the divisions in the list are likely to be labs, of course, and while you can create a map for any division you wish, only divisions with a map will be visible to users in the main availability widget. When we select a lab without a map, we can see what the page looks like by default. We have the name of the lab, the tools icons on the right, and a list of computers with the associated OS icons. To enter edit mode, just click the pencil icon. If you don't have an image of your lab and you'd like to construct a background manually, you can click the Add Box button below the name and use the Properties table that appears on the right to edit the look and feel. Boxes can be used to represent desks or tables, and the room shape can be changed using the bracket at the bottom right corner. If you have a CAD drawing in a PNG or GIF format, just drag it to the drop GIF or PNG box to add it as the new background. Be aware that the image will not automatically resize, so you'll need to upload the image with the right resolution right from the start. Once the room is set up the way you want it, simply drag the computer icons into place. The selector at the top allows you to change the size of the icon, so if you're designing a particularly large lab with a lot of computers, or maybe a library, it might make sense to use the smaller icons. Shift-click to multi-select, then align by clicking the button on either the horizontal or vertical alignment tool. With one or more computers selected and the Shift key pressed, arrow keys nudge. Hours will be displayed on the map page when they have been set, but they cannot be managed directly from within KeyReporter. Instead, select the Time Sets menu item from the Windows menu in Key Configure. Right-click and choose New Time Set. Name your new time set using the division name of a lab. Then, right-click in the Time Sets Details window to create a new time period. And then save. Since the name of the time set matches your lab, KeyReporter will automatically display the lab open and closed times at the top of its availability map. That's all there is to it. Just like all of the other widgets and reports in KeyReporter, all of your lab maps can be easily embedded into external web pages accessible from anywhere, making it easy to display lab availability on electronic signage, informational kiosks, or on a dedicated page on the university's website or intranet by using the code snippet and instructions found at this link. The availability widget can also be limited to a single section, such as a specific building, department, or campus, which can be useful for a kiosk or sign. Availability maps in KeyReporter are easy and quick to set up and use. If you get through the process of creating your first map today, you can demonstrate it to your colleagues in less than an hour. If you have any additional questions or need assistance, please contact us at support@sassafras.com. Thank you.